is my account overdrawn? That's absurd, I said, feigning shock as my husband's cousin Tara wailed over the phone about the loan he'd sworn was coming. I kept my tone level, letting her think I was just now piecing together his betrayal. My name's Olivia Grant, and at 34, my husband Derek just became the biggest gamble of my life. Not because he fooled me, but because he thought he could. That Saturday morning, waking to an empty bed and a vicious note taped to the coffee maker, "Good riddance, never cared for you," felt like a punch, even though I'd seen it coming. Derek thought he'd played me, but he didn't know he was the one caught in a trap I'd been setting for months. I'm a forensic auditor in Chicago, spending 12 years untangling financial schemes for Fortune 500 companies. So when Derek started plotting his exit 3 months ago, he wasn't exactly outsmarting a novice. The first clue was his sudden curiosity about our investment portfolio, asking questions he'd never cared about in our 7 years together. Then came the late-night calls he'd take in the garage, the work trips with no receipts, the way he'd slam his laptop shut when I entered the room. Textbook signs of a man planning to run. In my job, I'd seen it all. Executives siphoning. Millions. Spouses draining joint accounts. Derek thought he was slick. But every shady transfer, every hidden purchase, every attempt to siphon our money was tracked, screenshot, and sent to my attorney. By the time he left that note thinking, he'd pulled off the perfect heist. I'd secured our assets, frozen our accounts, and braced for his every move. When fraud alerts lit up my phone that Monday, I couldn't help but grin. Derek thought he was a mastermind, but he was sprinting into a cage of his own design. As Tara's panicked voice filled my ear, I glanced at the folder on my desk labeled "Checkmate." Months of evidence that would ruin not just his getaway, but his entire future. You might think I was crushed, learning my husband never loved me, but here's the thing about auditing. You learn to read patterns. People think they're clever, but money tells the truth. And Derek, he left a trail a mile wide. He had no idea he'd picked the wrong woman to scam, and I was about to show him what happens when you underestimate someone who lives to catch liars. I met Derek at a fundraiser 5 years ago. He was all charm, sharp suit, easy smile, spinning tales of his thriving consulting firm. He drove a leased BMW, talked about legacy, and seemed like the real deal. Looking back, I should have caught the cracks. How he dodged questions about his clients, how his old friends never materialized. But for the first 2 years, it felt good. We bought a sleek condo in Chicago's Loop, took trips to Cabo, planned for kids someday. Yet, little things nagged. He'd bristle when I asked about his credit card debt, pivot when I suggested meeting his colleagues. "Don't you trust me?" he'd say, flipping it on me. "Why do you need to know my every move?" Classic deflection. I'd seen it in boardrooms, but I let it slide because I wanted to believe in us. That was my mistake. The red flags grew louder last fall. He pushed for separate accounts, claiming it'd keep things fresh. I noticed charges on his card. Lingerie I never saw, dinners I didn't eat. His consulting gigs didn't align with any events I could verify. Most wives would have confronted him, but I'm not most wives. I started pulling statements, tracing transactions, building a dossier. Every move he made to bleed our accounts, thinking I was clueless, gave me more ammo. "Another late night?" he'd ask, fake concern in his eyes, while I worked at my desk. "Just wrapping up a case," I'd say, not mentioning the case was him. The real bombshell hit a month ago. My coworker, Jenna, burst into my office clutching her tablet. "Olivia, you need to see this." She was auditing a fraud case, and there was Derek's name, not as a victim, but a suspect. The same tricks I'd spotted in our accounts, shell transfers, fake invoices, showed up in his business dealings. He wasn't just leaving me, he was fleeing something bigger. "There's more," Jenna said. "He's linked to 4 fraud. Probes across 3 states, different aliases, same MO. He targets successful women, weds them, then vanishes with their money. The last one was in Denver, right before he came here. It all clicked. His charm, his secrecy, his push to access my 401k. I wasn't his wife. I was his mark. That night, I sat in our condo, combing through everything with new eyes. His. A loving husband act was a script, his isolation tactics textbook. I laughed, not from humor, but irony. He'd chosen a woman who dismantles cons for a living. Over the next month, I played the doting wife by day, kissing him goodbye, while nights were spent with the FBI's fraud unit, compiling evidence to protect myself and his past victims. "You seem off," he said one evening, eyeing me. "Everything. Okay?" "Just work stress," I lied, picturing the net tightening around him. Con artists like Derek never expect to be outplayed, and that's their downfall. The morning he vanished, his plan unraveled like clockwork. My phone buzzed with bank alerts, failed withdrawals, maxed cards, frozen accounts. Then Tara called, frantic about the loan Derek promised. The third call was from Megan Walsh in Denver. "Is Derek there?" she asked. "He's still my husband, legally. He cleaned me out 4 years ago." I gripped my phone, heart racing but mind clear. Here he was, Derek Grant, and I've been waiting for your call. Over the next hour, Megan and I swapped stories. Same suave persona, same consultant cover, same slow bleed of accounts before he bolted. But I had an edge. Preparation. "I've got enough to bury him," I told her, "but I need your help to nail him." Right on cue, Derek texted, "I'm sorry, can we talk one last time?" Textbook. He'd done this with Megan, circling back to manipulate access to any leftover funds. I showed my lawyer, Kate, who grinned. "Let's bait the hook." I agreed to meet at a Loop Cafe. Derek sat there, the picture of regret. Disheveled hair, red eyes, a man haunted by his choices. "Olivia, I'm so sorry," he started, reaching for my hand. I got in over my head with bad deals, panicked. I pulled back, playing along. "How bad is it?" His eyes flickered with hope. He thought I was buying it. "About $250,000, but I can fix it with our emergency fund." I leaned in, watching him sweat. "The one you tried to drain yesterday?" His mask slipped, just for a second. That was a mistake. I wasn't thinking. Or what about Megan in Denver? Was she a mistake too? His face went ashen. I slid a folder across the table. "If you'd checked, you'd know scamming a forensic auditor was a dumb move. 2 FBI agents approached." I stood, brushing off my coat. "Oh, and Derek? Get a good lawyer." As they cuffed him, my phone rang. Jenna. "We've got him," she said. "Those offshore accounts you flagged? He's running a Ponzi scheme. Millions deep. 26 victims, 14 marriages, all to women in finance. And get this, he was planning to use your credentials to launch a fake investment firm." I watched Derek being loaded into a van, his swagger gone. He'd studied my cases, thinking he'd exploit my reputation for his biggest con yet. "What else?" I asked. "That yacht club membership he pushed for?" He was wooing his next target, Lydia Pierce, the private equity VP. He was already setting up his next exit. Lydia was my old college roommate, and we'd been tracking Derek together for weeks. "She sent us every email, every call," I said. "He built our case for us." "There's more," Jenna said. "His cousin Tara? Not family, an accomplice. They've run this for years. She plays the frantic relative to justify his emergency cash grabs. She's being arrested in St. Louis now." I leaned against the cafe window, taking it in. "His real name? Derek Holt, wanted for fraud in Ontario since 2013. "Welcome to your nightmare, Derek Holt," I muttered. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You think you're smart, but you don't know what's next. Check your email." The email had photos. Me at the gym, with my parents, even through my condo's windows. A chill hit. Not fear, but fury. Derek had hired a watcher. I forwarded it to Jenna and called Agent Carter, leading Derek's case. "We've got a new player," I said. "Already on it," Carter replied. The photos came from an IP we're tracking. Travis Klein, Derek's old cellmate from a Denver stint. He's muscle, intimidates victims who get close. We're hunting him. My mind flashed to Megan, who'd hesitated to speak until I reached out. "Where's Klein now?" "We're closing in, but hold on. One of Derek's accounts just pinged. Someone's accessing it from your condo." Where I'd left my laptop. I called Lydia, who was there grabbing files. "Everything okay?" "Not exactly," she whispered. "Tara's here, with a key. She's on your laptop trying to crack Derek's accounts. Tara, who was supposed to be in custody." "Lydia, get out." A thud, then Lydia's steady voice. "Tara, look at the screen before you do anything stupid." I grinned, knowing what they saw. My laptop wasn't just a device. It was streaming every keystroke to the FBI backed by condo cameras I'd installed. "It's over," Lydia said. Sirens wailed through the phone as agents swarmed. Tara and Klein, who'd been with her, were cuffed within minutes. Carter met me at the condo. "Nice setup," she said. "You knew they'd try something?" "Desperate people make dumb moves," I said. "They think they're in control until they're not." With this break-in and the photos, we're adding conspiracy and intimidation to their charges. Your trap was airtight. I looked at my condo, now a crime scene, and felt oddly calm. Derek's final play had sealed his fate. 2 months later, I sat in a Chicago courtroom watching Derek's world collapse. The judge's voice was firm. "Derek Holt, for fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and witness intimidation, you're sentenced to 22 years. His eyes met mine, his bravado gone, replaced by raw fear. The man who'd scrawled, "Never cared for you," now faced a future where care was irrelevant. Tara and Klein took pleas, earning hefty sentences but spilling details on Derek's global network. Megan sat beside me, gripping my hand as victims. My newfound allies shared their stories. Each echoed mine. Betrayal, then empowerment. We hadn't just won justice, we'd reclaimed our strength. Agent Carter approached post-sentencing. "The FBI could use your nose for fraud. Ever thought about consulting?" I pictured the Derek still out there, preying on trust. "I'm in," I said. 6 months later, I stood at a podium in the FBI's Chicago Fraud Division, presenting the Grant case to agents and analysts. I'd reclaimed my maiden name, shedding Derek's alias. "Modern cons don't need weapons," I said. "They use charm and tech, but they always leave a trail." My FBI program had busted 4 scam rings in 3 months. Megan, now a consultant, helped us profile predators. We'd even located a victim in Toronto who'd lost her business to Derek. Cracking his encrypted files uncovered hidden accounts, letting us restore her savings. My new Lakeview apartment overlooked Lake Michigan. That night, sipping wine on my balcony, I thought of that Saturday morning, Derek's cruel note. He'd meant to break me, but he'd forged something stronger, a network of survivors turned hunters, dismantling cons like his. Derek thought, he'd taken everything, but he'd given me purpose. Sometimes the best revenge isn't surviving, it's building something unstoppable from the ashes.